Okay, welcome everybody to the Blissful Athlete. Thank you very much for tuning in. We got a live stream for you today, and it's very auspicious, this stream. Uh, and I really am excited to share a story with you on this one. But for those of you who do not know, and probably most of you do, my guru is Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, and he is key pillar in the revival of the Vedic civilization and the lifestyle of Sanatana Hindu Dharma. And one of the major components of the Vedic civilization and Sanatana Hindu Dharma was the education system, which was the guru-disciple relationship. And it was the guru's responsibility to inspire the seeking in his disciples and to provide the first 25% of knowledge or wisdom to their disciples, to the guru's disciples. And so the understanding and cognizing of these deep truths came with that just 25% from the guru. And after that, what happened next in order to attain the rest of this spiritual knowledge is Shravana, or listening. Listening to the guru was, the first 25% of this education. And then the second 25% of this is of understanding the spiritual truths is acquired by the disciples when they debate these truths with fellow students, with fellow disciples. And that happens through something called Vakyartha Sadhas as well, which is what is going to be taking place today. Before I get into that, I just want to set the context a little bit more, though, because the third component of understanding spiritual truths, so you have the first 25% listening to the guru, the second 25%, which comes from the disciples debating these spiritual truths, and the third 25% of this knowledge or wisdom comes through Manana, or internalizing and meditating upon the lessons that you've come across. And then finally, the full knowledge or wisdom of spiritual truths doesn't actually happen until you are in the space of Niddidhyasana, which is expressing, living, and teaching the spiritual truths themselves. And so my guru, Bhagavan Nithyananda, he has initiated myself and many other disciples into this ancient Vedic system of education of Vakyartha Sadhas. And as an ordained Nithyananda Yogacharya, I'm really excited to bring you in here and have you take part in Vakyartha Sadhas. And today I'm joined by my two good friends. They're fellow disciples and monks who I met during my time in India, and they're both actually Canadian, Sri Nithya Ashutoshananda Maharaj and Sri Nithya Yanatma Maharaj. And so before we really dive into today's topic, I'll just set the stage a little bit more, and that is that today we're going to be talking about manifestation of the universe, the sustenance of the universe, so the universe sustaining itself, rejuvenation of the universe, pulling out of delusion, and liberation. And this can be a bit of a overwhelming concept right away, but my guru does a really good job in explaining this. And so today we're going to be dissecting these truths a little bit. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring in Sri Nithya Ashutoshananda Maharaj and my good friend Sri Nithya Yanatma Maharaj. Thank you very much for joining us in today's Vakyartha Sadhas. I've kind of just set the stage a little bit for everybody, speaking on what Vakyartha Sadhas is and how we're really acquiring. We've gotten 25% of the knowledge of the spiritual wisdom that Swamiji's given to us just by telling us, but the next 25% won't come until we actually discuss and debate these spiritual truths amongst ourselves and really start to cognize and internalize them. And so today's topic, and I've already kind of touched base on who you both are, how we've met actually in India. You're two fellow Canadians, so you're really nice people in general as well, and you're really, really polite and of course handsome. But today we're going to be focusing on a very, very profound, deep spiritual truth that Swamiji's revealed the past couple of days, which has been just literally mind-blowing, like for the logical mind to comprehend. And for us, the best way to really break it down is, first, I want to just say the exact line that Swamiji has said, and that is that Kala is the dimension of universe where universes, big bangs, black holes, planets, suns, moons, stars, everything comes to exist. And they exist for zillions of yugas and zillions of years, and dissolve simultaneously, spontaneously, without a time gap. Chronologically, it's happening now, now, now. And Swamiji says, meditate on this. This powerful cognition will make you awaken, enlightened to the cosmic truths, to your existence. And he said, he went further on to say that in Hinduism, now, the present moment is the moment, is the time where your consciousness meets Kala, where Kala enters your consciousness. In this now, universes raise, exist for millions or zillions of yugas, zillions of years, and dissolve without time gap chronologically. So this is a pretty heavy statement for the logical mind to comprehend. And right away, it's nice to understand that I know modern science has already, revealed that time and space is a figment of this reality only. It doesn't actually exist. You look at black holes, for instance, time and space is different than how we experience time and space in this reality. And so when I visualized this myself and when I meditated on this, it was like I tried to push myself away and watch the Big Bang happen and watch it explode. And when Swamiji's saying this is existing for zillions of years, and it's just and then they could simultaneously in the same moment is all going away. I was able to just, for me, really cognize and understand that I'm watching from this space of now, that yes, like we can go and zoom in and we live these lives on this planet, but if you zoom all the way back out and watch the universe explode, the Big Bang happen, it all is happening now. And I mean, again, this is very hard for the logical mind to comprehend, but we've already discussed this actually before, and the more we did it, the more we chewed on it, the more I started to cognize and understand these truths. So I guess I would just leave an open-ended question for anybody here, or for either one of you. What do you take away from this understanding of Kala and the dimension of time and the manifestation of our universe, and how we're put into delusion, that the reality is sustained, that we're constantly in the space of rejuvenation. And I know I'm missing one face. Can either one of you remember which one that
Liberation.
is? Liberation.
There you go.
How do we experience liberation? And so I wanted to just leave it open to one of you guys. I think I've talked long enough now.
Well, one thing I wanted to add is something that I got really impacted when Swamiji was introducing what we are doing, the Vakyartha Sadhas. One thing that really I felt was setting things apart from the context of Hindus is that we have a certain understanding of what is debate, but Vakyartha Sadhas is more than that. It's basically who can raise the other person to the highest understanding. So the person who has the highest there's a famous debate in the history with Adi Shankaracharya and I forgot the name of I always forget his name. Anyways, I forgot his name, but so that's what they do. They engage with each other with spiritual truth, and then the one who can bring the other person to the highest understanding, he is declared winner.
It's almost like the opposite of today, where the debate is for who has the biggest ego or whose ego can win.
Today it's all about bringing the other person down and declaring supremacy in that way. But that Vakyartha Sadhas has nothing to do with that. It's totally different context.
Exactly. I thank you for sharing that. And
I think it's very good.
So today and moving forward, when we do practice this Vakyartha Sadhas, as in the Vedic civilization, and the purpose is raising us by ourselves as well to higher states of consciousness, to super consciousness itself. And that is the importance of having these debates, these discussions, these opportunities to, yes, because Swamiji said today actually that the guru's job isn't to like give you everything. And it's almost like when he said this, I realized it as, or I cognized it as like, you know, you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or you give him a rod and he can fish for life. You need to teach him, or you teach him to fish. In this moment, it's like Swamiji's teaching us things, but now it's up to us. That's the first 25% of understanding these spiritual truths. Now we need to take this wisdom, take this knowledge that we do understand, and carve it out into our brain grooves so that we can cognize and carry these cognitions moving forward to higher states of consciousness, and then eventually be able to live in these states and express them and live our day-to-day life like this, because these clicks happen. And I mean, earlier today we were talking and we had this major click, and it was like just so profound. And for me, I knew in that moment it would not have happened unless we had talked.
No, that is I also, that is the power of Vakyartha Sadhas. It's very powerful.
And so one thing that we were talking about this morning was I could understand so 5 faces of Paramashiva. The cosmos was created. We know that the Big Bang happened, and you know, matter and galaxies, stars was all created. And from that space, not only was it created, but that the universe is able to sustain itself, that planets are able to exist and operate and just function as they are. Beyond that, after the sustaining of it, when the planets are moving, when our bodies are moving, we're also able to rejuvenate ourselves. So you look at our cells, for instance, our cells are constantly manifesting, creating new cells. They're able to live and function. They're able to rejuvenate themselves. And the same thing is happening in our cosmos as well. And then the fourth aspect of pulling us out of delusion. This was one aspect, though, where I got stuck on. Where's the body constantly coming out of delusion? Like, for instance, the very act of matter existing in our cosmos, when you look at it and you zoom out and you see the Big Bang happening and you pull out, you understand that, okay, time is a delusion, and that this matter is, yes, it's existing, it's real in that sense, but when you pull really far back, is it really real? And of course the answer would be, well, it's only real because we accept it as real, that it is delusion and it has its purpose, but its purpose, when we have the understanding that it is a delusion, is an empowering way for us to liberate ourselves from the matter that we come across in our day-to-day life, and the reality that we sometimes struggle with, or the highs and lows, whether they're psychological or physiological. It is a delusion when you pull far enough back. And so I was just trying to map these two myself, between the cosmos, and because what's happening in Paramashiva in the cosmos is also happening within us.
Yes.
Do either one of you have any more light to shed on either one of these aspects?
Well, like we discussed this morning, I was also stuck. Like, I could understand why the creation is required in the body, why the sustenance is required, when the destruction is required, why you would want to get out of liberation. But I was also stuck at, like, why would you want to be deluded? And I didn't understand, from which space. And like we shared a little bit earlier, this is Paramashiva Swamiji was sharing that Paramashiva, he manifests himself as many to enjoy himself, to celebrate himself. But for the many to be happening and cognized, you need to cherish delusion, because the ultimate truth, Paramashiva is Paramashiva. There's nothing in, nothing out of Paramashiva. So there's no interaction possible. Even this interaction happens because we agree to a certain extent that delusion is there. But the thing was that being aware of the delusion, I think that's where that's where I feel is where the big thing is, right? When an enlightened master, let's not even speak about avatars, but enlightened masters and avatars, because they have the full realization, they're aware of the delusion that is there, so they can play without being caught. But when you don't have the awareness, when you forget that you are Paramashiva and you engage too deep into this interaction with things outside, then you lose yourself and then you don't know how to come back.
See, this is where Kundalini Awaken happens for me right now, because earlier today you gave me a very powerful click in that when you come from that space of Paramashiva, we can now look at one another and accept that we are accepting the delusion that you and I are separate. But in actuality, we know
that's not true.
That's not true. We are the same. That this cosmos was created, and that same space from which it was created from is who we are. And when we zoom out of this consciousness that is locked inside this human experience that we are having right now, we understand that we can grasp the truth that is you and I are the same being. And it was so euphoric when you said that to me earlier today.
I got it on the spot as well. I had no clue because we were talking about it. It came out and it kind of made sense, right?
Yeah.
Because in one of the satsangs, that's what Swamiji was saying, right? He was saying you can engage with your length, breadth, depth, and time dimension. That's not a problem. But you should always engage into these dimensions, remembering that the constant of you, the constant of the universe, the reality is that you are Paramashiva. If you remember that, engaging in everything else, that is no problem. But if you forget, if you do not remember that, then that's where it happens.
And Kashan has a good question. He's asking, does time really matter? The new world is taken over by time. I guess in this spirit world, time doesn't really matter. And that's exactly right. It does with the spiritual context, everything is now. Swamiji says now, now, now. Kala and your consciousness are constantly meeting now. Whatever it is that you're wanting to experience or express, your Paramashivatva is already here now. And so this concept of, I need to work towards something, that very idea is a delusion. And this just came to me as I was saying that I almost feel like, and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, that's what this is for. But when I was saying that, I had this cognition that is tapas, like doing spiritual work in a sense. It's not for us to like go through this. We have to go through this because, it takes time, but it's us like carving away at the concept that, no, we don't need any time. And so while we're carving away at this, we can cognize that we don't need to rely on time. That's why we perform tapas. And until we eventually realize that I already am that the time aspect was never actually tangible. But for us right now in this moment, it is, because we haven't cognized that yet. And so I know I'm kind of just throwing something out there, but
I had this idea recently. I was going to make a video about it actually, that how the Hindu, one of the most powerful cognition that Hinduism brings forward is the understanding that you have many births. You incarnate yourself endlessly until you decide to not, you get liberated, which means the complete decision of not being reincarnated unconsciously. But the thing is this, here being born in the West, we are born thinking we only have one life. And then you have all the greed to manifest so many things, plus everything that the society emphasizes on you by the marketing and all the things you see on TV and all that. And you're like, bro, I have to do all this in one life. Bro, I have no time. And then right away, you're stuck, you're agitated, you're just like, oh my god, I need to do stuff. So I think that's why we're so impatient, and we're so like agitated and so restless, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's because we are stuck in this time, and the greed, everything we want to accomplish, trying to fit it in the frame of this life, it's like that we are not able to handle it.
Especially in today's world, because I mean, I'm going to keep repeating this mantra that time, or your attention, is the new currency. Because how often do we pull up our phones and people scroll through and they get lost in the scroll? It's their attention is being drawn into this, and rather than be creating with something or creating something in their life, they're now just being sucked in and drawn in, and they're not living life to their fullest. And so when you are in this reality, time is your greatest asset as well. But your attention can pierce through, and your attention is so important on how you spend your time, what you're focusing your attention on, as well as your intention of what you want or who you perceive yourself to be while you're in this 3D reality, while you're in this world. And of course, that's another, like Kala constantly saying now, now, now. Paramashivatva is here now, now, now. In every moment of our life, we should be focusing again and again on Paramashivatva, that I am the cosmos, the same being that created the Big Bang is within me.
So when you think about it, time doesn't, the concept of time doesn't really make sense, because past, we all agree that we can't do anything about the past. Future, the understanding I got is that future comes in the form of the now. So future does not exist. There's only now that comes after now, after now, after now. And that's one thing that I started to cognize when, by being with Swamiji and all that.
Yeah. Yanatma, do you have anything to say?
Yes. Like what do you feel, Nyadva Maharaj?
Yeah. You're either a mute or
I think it's not muted.
Oh, he speaks.
Oh, yes.
I listen. Listen.
Actually, you were telling me today that Vakyartha Sadhas is about listening. So you're just expressing what you're teaching from listening.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we already touched on. So just from even whatever Swamiji spoke in the satsang just now, and Nithyananda, you talked about in the opening about the each 25%. So
it's a big revelation.
Yeah, and that how does it come? Like even in the Vedic tradition, then traditionally, even it's not necessarily spoken about enlightenment. That word is not there. That comes more later through Buddhism. So the concept is more, as you mentioned, the Shravana, Manana, and Niddidhyasana. That
yes,
listening, internalizing, and expressing. So there's nothing else that needs to be achieved. It's listening, and when that becomes part of you, then it just becomes expressed. And so that's what I'm feeling in terms of time and that experience. That Swamiji had mentioned, like that what he's giving also is not even necessarily about just living healthily, or even not even experiencing like love or abundance, but it's about experiencing yourself as Paramashiva. And so that's just the sense that I'm getting more now, is like the because it starts from listening. So we have a certain understanding that happens through listening. Then through this discussion, it becomes, I think, a bit more vast and a little bit deeper. Then Swamiji is speaking about doing the Manana, which is like asking the questions internally. And then, of course, as you mentioned in the beginning, they're also teaching. But what I would understand is that it has to come back to, if everything can be manifest, all these universes can be manifest and exist for zillions of years and dissolve without any time gap, then that has to mean that that's available to you now. And so that's kind of the thing that I think we really get from the enlightened beings, is that they experience it like that. And so it's kind of like it's available for us to express, I think, mainly through initiation from a master who's in that space. But to make that into an experience, I guess maybe, in a certain sense that involves time more. But that was my kind of only understanding, is that is supposed to be as an experience, and it's supposed to be as a conscious experience.
One thing I wanted to share with you guys and with the audience as well, what Swamiji was sharing, actually, earlier today, Nyanma Maharaj was mentioning the difference between Vakyartha Sadhas and Jivartha Sadhas. Quickly, we were saying that's about the experience, right? So I was looking in and say, what is my experience? So I relived the satsang Swamiji gave 2-3 days back, and he was saying, like, okay, worlds are created, they're sustained. So far, I'm good. They are destroyed or rejuvenated. So far, I'm good. And then he says simultaneously, then I'm gone. Then I no longer understand anything, right? Everything makes sense, but happening simultaneously, my mind, that's it. Mind shuts down. And it reminds me of an experience when Swamiji first introduced the agamas, Kamikagama. I had a similar experience, actually, which was more deep at that time than the one I had recently. We were just reading the first few verses, and in the first few verses, at some point, they were talking about numbers. And in the Vedic tradition, they had a name for a number starting by 1 followed by 29 zeros. We have million, 6 zeros, billion, 9 zeros. Zillion means after that we have zillion. I don't think I'm not aware of anything else, right?
Billion in between billion, but then
yeah. But they have a name for 29 zeros. That means their mind is cognizing 29 zero as something, it's cognizable. For us, after trillion, it's not cognizable anymore. It's zillion, and then it's infinite zeros, and it just kind of, And then at that moment, the same thing happened. My mind shut down. And then I got like, it was weird. I lied down into the chair where I was, and like for 3 hours, people thought I was sleeping, but I was hearing everything.
Hearing everything?
I was listening. People, because my body was completely inert, I could feel everything inside my body, and I could hear and almost experience everything outside as well. It was very crazy. So I was like, sometimes I'm thinking this. So today, what I was thinking was like, why is Swamiji asking us to cognize on this and sharing and all this, right? Why is he asking us to do that? And then that memory came back, and I was like, maybe it's just for us to experience time. Your mind has to break.
Interesting. Wow.
And that's what happened when he said spontaneously. My mind broke. He couldn't follow. I was following him. Tap 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 tap. Then he says simultaneously, and then that's it. It throws me in the.
Somebody said in one of the comments, I didn't pull it up because you were discussing, and I don't want to scroll up and lose my place, but they had asked about, an experience that Swamiji's given me, a direct experience where he's, shown himself in a way. And before tonight's satsang, so it's Tuesday evening here in Los Angeles, where I'm living right now. And on Tuesday evenings, I'm not able to get home in time for the start of satsang. And so I was racing home and I'm listening to satsang on my phone. And all of a sudden I come up to this light and I look over, and it's normally like a really short light. And I've been there for, about 30 seconds or so. And then I look over, and then there's a 30-second clock, a countdown on the crosswalk. And I'm like, why is it so long? Why is it taking so long? 30 seconds. And then I look over to my wife, Prasida, and then Swamiji says in that moment tonight during satsang,
no way.
What did he
No
say?
way. He said you can switch the signal just by creating the intention or the science of manifestation.
I turned around and all of a sudden the light turns green. Then we start going, and then I just look to Prasida, and Swamiji says, "You can even make your wife say yes." And Prasida, it's just like in that moment, I'm like,
did she say yes?
in that moment, it's just like, you're kidding me. There is, without a doubt, Swamiji's beyond time and space.
That's where I feel he was saying in the satsang, the guru's responsibility is to awaken the curiosity. He needs to give you enough so that you don't stagnate, but not too much so that you kind of, grind on your own to a certain extent. And I feel these experiences is what triggers my curiosity intensely. Sometimes Swamiji would be doing something and you're just like, how he knows what's going on. And then that's all. Then your seeking goes skyrocket and you're in some other place and you're just like, is this real?
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly. But then the thing is, what I think we get caught in today's world is we get caught in the delusion, and rather than work to liberate ourselves, we get caught in like wanting to see these signs, and we don't get into the space of creation, which is one of the key components of Paramashiva. And I think for me, when I was cognizing and internalizing all of this, all 5 aspects of Paramashiva are within us. And so we need to embrace and express all 5 aspects in our day-to-day life, right?
What I feel is that today the problem, it's like, I don't know why people, I maybe they do or maybe they don't, I'm not sure, but we have so many desires, but we attend to them one by one. It's like for some reason it takes us so much time to come to the conclusion, but wait, what's going on here? By attending things one by one as they come, and they come randomly, there's no end to it. Mm-hmm. So instead of trying to find a common denominator between each thing and attaining that, and then attending to everything simultaneously, which is basically the science of manifestation. Because the common denominator into fulfilling your whatever desires you want is learning how to manifest. If you know how to manifest, you can manifest anything. Money, enlightenment, friendship, anything you want. But I think I don't know why we don't come to that. It takes us so much time for us to even, look in that direction.
Well, he said it today, and it's like, we're very binary. The stupid, like, logical mind that we've developed in this reality is that we're very binary. We do one thing and we do another, and we don't express, like, we're so far away from living in those 11 dimensions that our brain can cognize.
I think that's why Swamiji's talking about multiverse now. It's like you have to start to cognize multiverse, not just 1, 2, 3, 4. And
can you elaborate a little bit on multiverse right now?
Yeah, Maharaj, multiverse.
Anybody?
I don't know. Multiverse.
Here's my cognition. So
okay.
Like, if any disciple of Swamiji, anybody that's lived in his ashram, been around him for any amount of time, knows the intense activism of the Sangha, of just how we are involved with life. And when you were talking, I just had this like visualization of constantly we're working on creating something, constantly we're sustaining another project, constantly we're stopping something else, and constantly we're liberating people from patterns, and so constantly, like, there's all 5 dimensions going. But then even today you were saying, but each one of those dimensions has 5 faces of Paramashiva as well. So when all 5 of those aspects, when you're creating a project and you're sustaining something else, there's still another 5 dimensions to each one of those. And if you're like me right now and you're not able to really cognize this and you think I'm crazy, I get you. But that's only because our logical mind at this moment can't.
But bear with us.
Comprehend that. Yeah, bear with us though.
Bear with us. It's worth it. I trust it's worth it.
And that's when it's like you got to hold on to Guru, hold on to
Will persist.
Paramashivatva inside of you, and understanding that you are Paramashiva, that even though we can't, understand this right now,
that's why I think, especially I think for Westerners, because we don't have the same cognition than the Guru, that the people who would be born in the tradition, where they have by default much more kind of, I mean, not everybody, but there's more chances that you are more inclined to have like respect and not questioning and not kind of conflicting too much with this concept of Guru, where foreigners can more easily enter into conflict with it because we don't have necessarily the full understanding of what Guru is. But I forgot what I was going to say.
That's fine. The one thing we kind of didn't really touch on was, so with these 5 aspects, well, first of all, I never gave all of the Sanskrit names. I made a note. I wanted to make sure that we're doing that, because Swamiji, he's reviving not just the English terminologies of this. He wants to keep the Sanskrit language alive because it is phonetic. You look at the sound of the creation of the Big Bang, the sound that is reverberating within the cosmos is the same vibration of Om. And this, of course, is just one syllable of the Sanskrit language. And so the 5 faces of Paramashiva, just so anybody else that did come in a little bit late, the 5 aspects of the cosmos, the 5 faces are Srishti, which is manifestation, Sthiti, which is sustenance, Samhara, which is rejuvenation, Throbhava, which is pulling out of delusion, and Anugraha, which is liberation. And so looking at like the human experience, for instance, you were birthed, you're here right now, your body manifested, you're here on this planet. You're also, you were able to grow and to live and to operate in this day-to-day reality. So you're able to sustain this experience. Your body's ability to rejuvenate itself. If you get a cut, you're able to rejuvenate and be able to continue operating. And pulling out of delusion is this opportunity for us to cognize that we aren't this human being actually, and that there's something else to us. And when we're fully established in that space, that's when we are truly liberated. And so these 5 aspects are happening within us, but at the same time, these 5 actions are also happening within the universe. And
that's where actually where I was leading earlier, what I was leading to is to bear with us, right? Like, you need to have tremendous patience. You cannot afford to become agitated or to become impatient, because the moment you enter into that space, you lose it. These cognitions are too big for you initially, but you need to stick with them with patience and with devotion and surrender. Like Swamiji was saying, right? Paramashiva, he doesn't need to make sense to you. You have to make sense to him. Yeah. You surrender.
That was such a good line.
Yeah, that was like, I made a video about this today.
Yeah. Somebody was saying to me, continue, sorry, finish that thought current.
And just to finish that, Swamiji was saying, our brain cannot cognize it. So through surrender, you allow Paramashiva to operate. He will rewire, and then as the rewiring happens, you will get it.
Yes.
But the other way around doesn't work. You can't rewire to get him. You have to allow him to come rewire so that he can make you understand who he is. That doesn't make sense. Anyways, you have to surrender. That's all that it means.
But that again is the importance of Vakyartha Sadhas and these internalizing, these debates of bringing one another to higher states of understandings.
Actually, I had a click while you were talking, something experiential, right? How when you start a project with Swamiji and you move and you expand and start different projects, he will never support or be okay with the idea of dropping a previous project.
Yeah.
Where in the normal life, you will always think, okay, I'm moving my attention from this project to that project. But Swamiji will never be okay with that. He will always say, no, both happening simultaneously.
Yes.
And that's where I feel that's where the expansion starts.
Do both.
Yes, there's no question of dropping one and getting to the other. You started there, and then now you're expanding there. Great.
Yeah.
But no dropping.
Yeah. And that, and I mean, I was saying this the other day to another friend of mine that, you know, when we take on the responsibility of something, it helps us begin to grasp and understand and hold the space of creation for not just like one thing, but all things in our lives when we feel that it is our responsibility. Just as I said that, I had this vision of Paramashiva seeing the whole cosmos in front of him, like the universe rising and falling, and he's the one responsible for all of this to happen. And he's established in this space of integrity to keeping that. And yes, it's our responsibility to align ourselves to that responsibility and integrity to get to
this
that.
this thing is nice. I'm getting so many clicks on it. No, I'm seeing now. You gave the visualization of Paramashiva seeing, right?
Yeah.
See, Swamiji said he's an avatar. How does an avatar happen? When so many people are yearning to experience the ultimate. I just had this click when you were talking, this kind of experience. Actually, it's as if humanity unconsciously wants to experience liberation, but they're not aware. And why I'm saying that, if you look at one of the major things that is going on now in the world is video game. But what is video game? Video game is experiencing the third person, right? How you will play video game, you will get involved, but you will never feel it's real. But when you get involved in a drama in life, for example, an accident, you will feel it's real. A traffic accident is real, but a car accident in the video game is not real. But actually, even the car accident in this life is also not real if you zoom out to Paramashiva.
We're all in the Sims reality, folks.
Yes. It's just we are able to cognize zooming out when you play video game. That your character and you is separate. So you're able to zoom out from the character you created in a video game. But somehow we are not able to zoom out from this character, this body.
So the process of zooming out is yoga.
Yes.
And transcending this physical experience.
Is dropping the ego, detaching from the mind and body, and that's pretty much what it is. To zoom out from this. That doesn't mean like you cannot play a video game. You play a video game, but you in the video game, you're clear that it's a video game. That clarity is there, right? But in the same clarity we need to have with this body.
You play any video games?
Yeah, I'm until 93. But so then what I can understand is, so if we're speaking about, there's that aspect that, Paramashiva has these 5 phases, and each of those 5 phases is manifesting 5 phases. So that this has to be happening, it has to be available in you all the time. Otherwise, you're not alive. It's like you have to have experienced enlightenment at some point, or the bliss, or you have to have a connection to it, or you can't be alive. So then instead of it being like zooming out, for me, it's more like a zooming in. It's really more like a zooming in, because really the way that I've experienced Swamiji is it's not about detaching from things, which I think a lot of times is, really people say that. How can I protect myself from negative energies? How can I not be so attached? And what it's been for me is, it hasn't been about detaching in the sense of really necessarily even zooming out, but looking in. And that for me has always been one of the greatest gifts that Swamiji has given me, is an ability to know where your center is. And I used to sit in meditation sometimes, not for that long, but I used to sit for maybe even an hour. And after you get up, after 15 minutes, that whole whatever you thought you achieved in the hour and a half is gone. especially if you had to speak a word or you encountered a conversation or something. And so for me, after that, after an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, I didn't really know where to go with meditation. Like, what direction am I supposed to go in? What's like, I feel okay now with my eyes closed, but kind of like, what is the point after that? And what Swamiji did for me in initiation was, through even like a healer's initiation, was I always felt it was like I didn't know where my source was. I didn't know what direction my meditation was supposed to go in to make it a deeper and more of a usable experience. And so I always kind of figured it like it was there somewhere, but it was kind of like restricted through a straw. My connection to the source was like restricted through a drinking straw. And that straw was full of cotton. And that was really all I had was that was a connection to my source. I sit for an hour, and if you sit for one more hour, there's no more benefit. So, and but what Swamiji did for me in initiation, in even just the healer initiation process, was, and he guided with the eyes closed, and I don't know, I was trying to just follow. I didn't really know what I was doing or supposed to do, and just started to experience this really all-pervasive kind of niceness, and it was very strong, and I realized that that's what love was, and I started crying, and I just couldn't believe it. It was like nothing I experienced before, and I was just like, what is this thing? And I just thought, well, that must be what love is. It's kind of everywhere, and it feels like okay. It's not like hard coming and going like joy or happiness. And so I continued looking through the meditation, and after some more time and just looking, following the meditation process, and I just continued looking at this thing, or looking inward, or looking wherever I was looking, and I realized that not only that thing that I was looking at was love, and then I finally realized, wait a second, like I thought I was following Swamiji's voice, I was following him inward somehow and going in that direction, and I realized that what I was looking at was me. And that thing was love also. And it was the most beautiful thing that I had ever experienced. And that has stuck with me forever. And that will never leave me. And it didn't ever leave me. And since that time, that initiation from Swamiji, every single moment of my life since that initiation, I've known exactly where my source is, exactly where my center is. It doesn't mean I'm always full of it, or I'm always even really in it. But every minute of my life since then, even walking around, I've always known exactly where my source is and what direction you can look to clear it out. And I really feel like what Swamiji did and what the master does is the real master is
Yes.
like we don't know where to go. We can look inside, but it's like we're so full of stuff we don't even know where to go. But the master is situated at the source. He's situated there. He can see from the source what direction you need to go. And he can like break through the wall. That's the guru's job, I think, is to break through that wall and show you where it is and encourage you to go there. And what I really felt after that moment was that what Swamiji had done was kind of drilled out my space that was no longer a straw that was clogged with cotton. He drilled it out like a huge culvert. And it's so big that it never got clogged up again. And so that for me was more of the experience when you go into that space, and maybe it does work through kind of like an unclutching kind of thing. In that sense, it is kind of how do you disconnect from stuff? But it was really the only solution. It was the only solution. I felt what happened was looking in, Swamiji helping you look in. When you hit that source of energetic bliss, it really just comes out. It's like drilling a oil well. And when you hit that oil, it just comes spewing out. That was literally the solution, because otherwise we're just constantly trying to be more peaceful. And we're constantly fighting our urges, but that's not what life is. Life has to be all inclusive. And the only way that can be is, if we look deeply enough in, and you can get to the source and have it just come spewing out of you without choice. And so that was kind of my...
I want to tie this in. Somebody asked a question. I want to hear your answer on this. Doesn't that mean Yanatma is enlightened?
Yeah, I mean, that's easy enough to say, right? Everyone's enlightened, but I mean, whether or not you experience it and manifest it is, those are different, levels. And, if you're creating a life that you don't want and you're continuously creating an experience that you don't want, then, then the experience of that is not enlightenment. Obviously by definition, we're all part of the source and connected to the source. And, by definition, yeah, we would have had to have had the experience of enlightenment, and we have to be connected to it as the source of all things. Otherwise, you can't be here. But whether or not you're manifesting it all the time, that's what I always understood, was that, the extent of your spiritual progress is the extent to which your declaration becomes reality. So that's a good measure. But that was how I always kind of understood it, was that those things are always going on inside of us, and it's not about trying to distance yourself from stuff. It's going into it, and that's what even Swamiji was speaking today, from my understanding, is going inside and internally allowing the questions to happen. And when you go inside deeper and deeper, the attachments dissolve. It's not that you fight them. The more you fight them, the bigger problem they become. So this is a really wrong understanding that, that we have to somehow avoid things. It's to, more so in my experience, is about looking deeply into things that makes you less affected by them. And you realize that, that in that sense, they become disconnected from, having unwanted impacts on your life. Mm. So that's why, that's why.
I would just like to bring up Cami, and I got a few others that feel I'm censoring and deleting people who disagree with me. I just want everybody to understand the context of Vakyartha Sadhas is actually lifting ourselves as fellow seekers to higher understandings, higher spiritual cognitions. That's what Vakyartha Sadhas is. This isn't actually a debate about, me being right or you being wrong. Yes. I'm actually just removing comments that are straight up abusive and not at all involved in the conversation. So that's why it might seem like I'm disagreeing. In a sense, I am, because you're not here with any positive intention. So that's why I'm removing comments. And
I had this experience a few days back with when I started to make my videos, right? So I got some of these comments starting to land on some of my videos. And then I was contemplating and say how to respond, right? Mm. And then I just had this I just saw, like, I was like, see, this channel has a purpose, a clear purpose of how it is going to enrich and what is it is going to enrich people with. So I just saw, like, it was so easy. I just saw, it's like I'm setting up my puja kit. Once I set up my puja kit, I won't allow anybody come and poo on my puja kit. I just won't allow it.
Yeah.
It's like you clean your house and then you invite the dog to poo on the floor. Who does that? Nobody does that. So naturally, when it's clear, you tell, no, that is not the place where you can do this right now. So from that simple understanding, I just cleared the whole thing.
Yes, exactly.
There's nothing personal, but you have to be in line with you have to grasp the context, and you have to grasp the context, and you have to respect it. Mm. If you're not able to grasp the context, if you do and you decide not to respect it, then that is just a lack of respect you have towards you, because you don't respect yourself and you don't value that respect within. Then you feel you can disrespect outside, and you feel it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it's just a big lack of integrity within yourself, and your decision not to listen to life, not to engage with life, and just that's my understanding of tantrum throwing. Right? You just throw your tantrums around and see what kind of attention you can get from doing that. But that's not the right space to be in. You won't get anything by doing that. Nothing you'll get.
Ashutosh Solid is asking, I also want to hear what Ashutosh thinks about actions in video games generate karma. And so many people are engaged in it these days.
The only karma happens with it. It's a cognitive level, right? It's a thought current. Mm. It's not what you do. The cognition from which you do, that cognition generates a positive or negative karma. Mm. So it's not about. People. People playing video games, they're not playing video games to enrich the world most of the time. So definitely they will have to, they go through their own karma. I went through video games and it was not a very pleasant experience. I think I landed in front of Swamiji because of the depression I was experiencing in video games. See, the biggest problem with video games, they distract you.
Yes.
They constantly distract you, and they don't. It's not video games; it's the entire society, because that's how we built ourselves. We are
There's no difference between social media.
We're not able to sit with ourselves, like Nyadma Maharaj was saying, looking deep in and to drive through and to pierce through whatever is there, so that you can find your constant, you can find your point of stability. You are not driven towards that. Every time you face something that you don't enjoy inside, there's everything around you possible to redirect your attention towards that, instead of attending to what you have to attend to. So video games, that's the video games, they do that, and that is not good.
Yes.
That is negative karma. You not going deep within the experiences that you have about you. Anything that distracts you from that is very dangerous for your life.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, go ahead.
So, yeah, great. So then I'm sharing something about how it can be, because my understanding, Swamiji has been speaking for a few days about that, all the universes, Kala is the dimension beyond time and space. So, it makes logical sense also if we even just go from length to breadth to depth to time to space. It's like each dimension is kind of like multiple incantations of the previous dimension, right? So length going to breadth is many incantations of length creates depth, right? And many incantations of length and depth creates the third dimension, or breadth of depth. And then many incantations of the three dimensions creates time. There's one in this moment, one in this moment, one in this moment. And so space is a similar kind of recreation of that dimension of time throughout multiple incantations that we call as space. But going beyond that, then there has to be multiple dimensions of space happening. So it gets to a point where we can't cognize it, right? So my experience of that has to do with, and this is what that we're even talking about, is what is karma. And if we're going outside and getting caught in stuff, we create more whatever we call it karma, or baggage. So, but what is happening in me and what is happening in my life is, however many years of the past of this lifetime, 30, 40 years, everything in there is happening in me now. The emotional baggage and blockages that I hold from being a 5 or 6 year old, where my identity, ego started to become solidified, that's being reproduced in me now. So that manifestation is beyond time. It's happening now. It didn't just happen when I was a child.
Yes, I understand.
It's recreating itself now.
I think there's a big thing also, because even when Swamiji was introducing this Kalpataru, the science of Kalpataru is creating your future by rewriting your past. How can you rewrite your past? Only if time is non-existent. If time exists, then definitely you can't rewrite your past. But if you can rewrite your past,
one more time.
Yeah, if it's possible for you, because that's what we experience when you do completion, you rewrite your past. That doesn't really make sense in words, but when you go through the experience, that's what you do. How can you rewrite your past? That's impossible. It's past, yet it's possible. Ça veut dire, I'm speaking French now. That means that past cannot be real. If you had experience of rewriting your past, one experience I had about me rewriting the past, when you have a cognitive shift you no longer see what happened in the same way. And then you realize that everything was layered so nicely for you to arrive to this moment. But before that cognitive shift, you did not see this whole happening. It's like you couldn't fit the pieces of the puzzle together. So the way I was experiencing the past before that cognitive shift and after a cognitive shift is totally different. So how can I say past is real? It is not real because it changed as at an experience level.
But it is real because it's affecting our future from this moment.
So the thing is, you rewrite your past to continue. See,
it has to exist both ways.
Yeah,
no?
yeah, it exists both ways. It is true.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. But it can exist now as delusion. But when we can zoom out and see that it's all happening simultaneously also.
That helps.
No, wait, I didn't catch that one. Zooming
I'm
out?
saying, like, yeah, see, that's because how can looking in rewrite your past? It has to mean that all of our so-called chronological experiences exist simultaneously.
What I feel is actually past and future, actually, they're not real. The only reality is the cognition you have about you now. That's the only thing that is real.
Yes, because Kala entering onto you now, into your consciousness now, whatever you're carrying as your cognition manifests. The time, space, past.
See, I'll give an example. When I was in Vietnam, I had at some point I had heart pain, and I had some fears because I never had heart issues or even health issues, and I had this weird heart pain, and I went to the hospital, and they were saying, "Oh no, everything's fine, everything's fine." But I was like, "No, it's not fine. I have pain to an extent where I feel that I am afraid of dying." That kind of pain. So at that moment, I never felt this whole thing was auspicious, and did not experience it as auspicious at that time. But that whole thing led me to go to Inner Awakening and to meet Swamiji, which changed my entire life. And after meeting Swamiji, at once or twice or thrice times, I had some kind of, not at the same intensity, but some kind of pain in my heart. But the way I experienced that pain in my heart afterwards was not at all in the way that I used to experience it back then. But it's the same physical experience. But how am I not experiencing the same? Now, when I was experiencing it afterwards, I felt so relieved and I went into it. Instead of having the pain and trying to remove the pain, I just sat with myself and I just dove into that pain. And the experience was totally different. It's the same thing, but it's a different experience.
So I want to see if this kind of ties in. I want to bring Cami in. She's actively wanting to contribute and participate.
Yes.
So I just wanted to bring this up. Oneness implies we're ultimately one awareness, yes, and everything is happening simultaneously, yes. So in a way, everything is an expression of the ultimate, yes. Situations that are bad are all part of it, yes. And then she goes on to say, doesn't that make everything predestined?
No.
Yes, but no.
No,
yes,
wait.
No.
As you were reading this, as you were reading this question, I had this click.
Well, you're getting your click.
Yeah, my click is clicking.
My click is clicking. So what Ashutoshananda was just speaking on, that unless you go into yourself to remove the patterns. So for instance, Cami, if you think of your first memory that you've ever had, odds are it's a painful memory. You can For me, it was my dad kind of making fun of me in public, and that painful memory was in me. That, because that memory is in me, that is making my destiny predetermined. Yes, because I've kept this information, this pain pattern in me, is now going to manifest in different ways in my life. So in a sense, my experience is predestined until I go into myself and remove this pain pattern that was stored within me. But it does not mean that my destiny is predetermined as in that way always, because in any moment I can liberate myself from that experience, from that pain pattern, and thus change the direction of my life.
By a conscious intervention. And that is why the master is important.
Yes. And
because
I can say, continue.
If you, I just wanted to add, if the cognition you cherish, if you consciously decide not to attend to it, then yes, your future is predestined. Yes. Because this cognition will create the karma which you will experience. But at any moment, at any point in time, you can consciously intervene and remove that cognition and change it for something else. And that is where master becomes important, because master operates from the space of pure consciousness.
And that is the power and the right that each individual has of your own will, and the power of initiation, yes, that the guru can bring into your life. They can help you progress beyond these patterns that were either blind spots, meaning you didn't see them before, or that you're not willing to look into and to remove yourself from that delusion. And that's when it's difficult, because sometimes our ego is holding on to something and we want to keep this pattern and we love it and we feel it's us, but it's actually harming us in the sense of spiritual evolution. And so when you accept a guru, you're accepting that this thing that I love is actually hurting me, and I'm allowing the guru to do the master surgery and take it out of my life, and thus change the outcome of my reality. And so the destination is not always predetermined. Would you agree with this, Yanatma Maharaj?
Yeah, what my understanding has been, as Swamiji has mentioned, is that everything is predetermined. Everything is predetermined, and you can change
simultaneously.
Simultaneously. No, yeah. Can you speak a little bit more on that? Did you?
Yes.
Everything's predetermined. Just so as Ashtoshananda was saying, everything is predetermined. If you allow life to make decisions, then the default future is default. Everything is predetermined. And actually, it is very commonly known in Vedic tradition, because it's all about a whole society, as Swamiji had mentioned. And we can easily see today, even, we have documented names of people living this lifestyle back 12,000 years. That time, kingdoms and stone temples and enlightened beings and enlightened Gurukul, the entire civilization, even 56 countries by name are there. Going back 12,000 years, they're living like this. And establishing symposiums with all the best artists, kings, leaders, thinkers, performers, as a periodic gathering for the purpose of growing and teaching and ensuring that enlightened civilization is available. So this is going back beyond what time we can cognize, but from that civilization is very clear. The enlightened being, living as per the enlightened scriptures and the enlightened lineage, has their consciousness situated in a space that we cannot get to alone, but they can pull us and focus and encourage us to live in a way that can be aligned to that and give us those experiences. And that whole thing is the whole intention and need for the humanity stuck thinking they are humans, is to have a being that is situated inside the superconsciousness, and that whole thrust, the whole strength and history of that civilization going back so many tens of thousands of years and successfully living without killing one's neighbors, but actually embodying what it can mean to be peaceful, is that the creator can write your destiny, and you being created has a destiny that's already been created. But the whole purpose is that, yes, that is created as your destiny, as your future, as your life. But by definition, the super consciousness that is the creation can rewrite your future. So the word is given that Brahma, the creator, what Brahma writes with his hand, the future that he writes with his hand, by the grace of living Brahma in the physical human body, the living enlightened master whose feet walk on the earth, what Brahma, the creator, writes as your destiny with his hand, the enlightened superconsciousness of the guru can wipe with his feet. So this is the very definition of the civilization that Nithyananda, you're speaking in the beginning about the Gurukul and the education system. So,
and that
yes,
is
the default future, if we don't take the action, as Ashutosh Nanda was saying, if we don't take the action and we allow life to play itself out, then there's a default future. But because of our nature being connected to the source, if we know the science, then you can rewrite it.
See, the purpose is to complete, to consciously, continuously have that prayerfulness, that seeking alive, to constantly seek the conscious breakthrough, aligning to the Guru's initiations and words and whatever knowledge he gives us, so that we can break free from this whole cycle of unconscious creation. That unconscious creation means that predetermined life, so that we can experience ourselves as pure consciousness. But for that, we need to be guided initially.
Yes.
And that's why even into this satsang Swamiji was saying, it starts with 25% of listening from the Guru. It starts from the Guru. After that, there's a process, but it starts from the Guru.
And so maybe, I know.
And in the process, you don't leave the Guru, you don't abuse the Guru. Because in the scriptures, they tell very clearly, everything you gain from the Guru, the moment you drop him, you lose everything that you've gained with him.
Yes. So I think, we originally intended to go for like 30 minutes here. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like 2 a.m. here.
We're enjoying too much. So let's maybe try and end it here. To everybody that did join us, thank you very much for participating in the Vakyartha Sadha and engaging with us and participating in the first 50% of understanding these spiritual truths, which was the first 25 listening to Guru, the second 25%, which is actually the debate or the internalizing amongst fellow disciples, moving forward to understand the 5 faces of Paramashiva, the act of Srishti, the manifestation of the cosmos, Sthiti, sustenance, Samhara, rejuvenation, Throbhava, pulling out of delusion, and Anugraha, liberation. This to understand the remaining 50%, Swamiji says first to meditate and internalize it amongst yourselves, and then go on and express it and live it and teach it. So hopefully we inspired you in some way to meditate on this tonight before you go to sleep, or this morning, depending on wherever you are, and then to maybe try
join
and
us
teach
tomorrow
and share this knowledge with somebody, and really don't listen to us about this, that we're here actually for ourselves, very selfishly, to try and cognize these truths that Swamiji has downloaded for us in his evening discourses. And so we obviously highly recommend just following the source itself and learning from him directly to obtain the first 25% of these spiritual truths anyways. And so with that being said, if you guys enjoyed Ashutosh Ananda Maharaj and Yanat Maharaj, you can follow them on their social media platforms as well. I've put their YouTube links in the description below, so you can check them out there. We do plan on doing this continuously. It seems like we might bounce around from platform to platform, but I really do want to host something consistently here on my channel as well. So if you enjoyed, you're in luck. There'll be more to come. Before we go, anything else you guys would like to say before we dip out?
Simultaneously.
Let's
go all out.
Yes. And so I will close with the Pona mantra. I need to complete. I completely forgot to start with our prayer, Sadguru Vandanam, and so that definitely will not happen next time. But we'll close with the Pona mantra. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you guys in future videos. And as always, be blissful, Nithyananda. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Adi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavat Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam Paduka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam. Thank you very much, everybody. Be blissful, Nithyanandam. We'll see you guys on future videos.
Yes. Nithyanandam.